Can you hear me? Tell me if I talk too loud. When you get to be my age, you start to get a little deaf. Anyway, thank you for having me here, and thank you all for coming. And I'm going to show a lot of pictures, so if you get bored, just leave. What can I say? Anyway, but I'm not going to say much before I start the pictures. The only two things are two quotes. One was by Robert Capa that struck me when I started photography, and it was that if it's not good enough, you're not close enough. So I took that to heart my whole 50-year career. And the other one was one that my wife found in response to something by Robert Frank, which is very good. It's important to see what is invisible to others. And I think that's quite important. All right, here we go. Next, Haiti. I think it was my second wife said, you can only photograph New York so long. You have to do something else. And I didn't disagree with her. So I decided to go to Haiti. Why Haiti? First of all, it's a 3.5-hour plane ride direct nonstop from New York. They have a Mardi Gras, it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and also what was very important, historically, other people had photographed in Haiti. So in other words, you won't see tons of people photographing in Jamaica through the years because if you work like I work, you're going to have a serious problem. Here, they're very cool. I call this one Chagall Pigs because I discovered a place with an outdoor abattoir where I would go every morning at 5 o'clock, no lights and totally terrible area, yet I felt I was much safer than going in the South Bronx. This is a reverse Ku Klux Klan picture for me because you have the rope hanging, you have a looming figure in the back, and you have that guy on the left. And this was the first day I got to Haiti. These are shoeshine boys. I believe in if you go somewhere, you should take pictures right away while you're fresh. And before I go anywhere, and I've traveled a lot through the years, I never read about a place. And then if I'm interested, then I start reading about a place. That's the haircut. That's at another outdoor abattoir. Oh, sorry. That's what Haiti should be for everybody. Should be a dream, but it's actually a nightmare for most people. This is at the Mud Festival, Plaine du Nord. That's another one at the Mud Festival. The original inhabitants of Haiti were the Arawak Indians, and look how beautiful that young boy's face is. And he's really great looking. And it's 95 degrees, he's wearing that hat, and those are the tap-taps that take people in and out of Port-au-Prince every day so they can sell their wares. That, every time, I went to Haiti 3 times after the earthquake, and every time I would go, before that, the building is no longer standing, obviously, but I used to go to, before that I would go all the time to thank that pyramid of light, because that's what makes the picture. And I don't think I could take a better street photograph in Haiti, in the Caribbean. That's at the cemetery, and you see, I don't know if you can see the lights there, that's the football stadium. I used to do a lot of photography at the cemetery. The dogs there are more scared of you than you are of them. Yeah, that's part of my series I started, but I never really continued, called Underdogs. Because I always felt I'm an underdog, because I came from actually nowhere. Okay. Anyway, this is looking at the grave. That's the Yell. They have a lot of people, and there's processions every night going to the cemetery, and some people get so worked up they sound like a bunch of cackling chickens, and then they faint. So to me it looks like, the gentleman's holding her arm, it's like almost like a guitar, and they're playing it. This was used in a Kodak ad, the drama of photography. This I called A Prisoner, even though all the pictures are untitled, and it's at a soccer stadium, but I love that shadow from the bar over his eye. Then we went back after, I couldn't go back after the earthquake because I had to have a double hernia operation, and I didn't know where I was going to stay, and I was in a lot of pain, but I went back anyway, though I hadn't had the operation 3 weeks later. And I started to do a series of, because I thought I was actually finished photographing Haiti, because the book is like a closing point, because you can go on photographing forever somewhere, so you have to have closure so you can go on to something else. So I started to photograph the houses that people were forced to live in because their houses were lost. These were all across from the palace, which is totally decimated. Very political. I love that. Here's Alcide House, and I found out when I went back on my second or third trip that the guy who lives in this little structure is an English teacher, and he spelled, here's Alcide's house, it should be. It's incorrectly spelled. And some of the structures are beautiful. You'll see going. This lady, I took a picture. She's in the same camp where, all the structures are. And they have a lot of violence there at night. So every time my wife sees this picture, she feels that this lady was violated the night before, which could be very possible, because the gangs run rampant at night. The dog, here it is again. This is a story which, for me, the Gene Smith picture of the crazy man in Port-au-Prince, or outside Port-au-Prince in Haiti, that I think was done in the 50s, I remembered that picture, and I saw this gentleman, and, he wouldn't talk to anybody, even if you gave him money, because I watched someone give him money at night, and he didn't respond. So I wanted his picture, and I did something I normally don't do, okay, and I don't think you should do. I wanted the picture, and I kept flashing him in the face. He didn't say, and then he screamed at me, and I jumped 4 feet in the air, and my assistant at the time said to me that, you won, Bruce. It's not about winning or losing, okay? I don't play that game. And I said, no, it's not over. And I did the wrong thing, okay? And I'm man enough to admit it. The next day I fell in the sewer water and cut my hand. So, you get a payback. That looks like a murder victim, but he's only sleeping in his car because some people that had cars were able to sleep in their cars because they had nowhere else to sleep. I don't think this is coming from the cemetery. I don't think the jacket fits him, but also outside the cemetery. These are the young boys who try and get customers for the tap-taps. They don't really care where you're going. They just want you to take their tap-tap. And to me, this is a very beautiful picture. It looks like an African mask, wooden mask. Those are some of the houses. I started to do color for the first time. And the structures are incredible. Look at that one. That can go in any museum. It's really beautiful. That's the barber shop. It reminds me of a Farm Security Administration photograph from the 30s. Now, what did I do in Florida? Oh, this is where I started really the face series. The genesis of it is actually probably mugshots, but to me, I wanted people to see people that I thought were people feel that are left behind, but I found out that they're not left behind. These people are invisible to people. So I'm going to show you them because I identify with these people. Most of them are underdogs. Not her. She was out at the Versailles at the diner. She's a Cuban. That's Angel, assisted living facility. George. They get stronger as we go along because I think that's the whole thing. When you start a series, you start at a certain level and you think that's pretty good, but if you keep on going and persevere, the pictures get stronger and stronger and stronger. I don't know how much more I can do on it. That's Darlene, who loved her picture, but when I took a picture of her back, she went nuts. George drinking his medication in the orange juice in the afternoon. Not George, sorry, Zapata. And every time I saw him, he would go like this, because he wanted me to give him a quarter, or I gave him a quarter, I think, every day, but $1, and he wants 2, and I say, no, Zapata, 1. I have a great time here. I would love to be locked up with them, but I'd love to be there at night, because I can't imagine what goes on at night in these places. I have permission to go into these places, so it's okay. Look at that handbag. Look how nice she is. That's my girl. Leonora. I would buy her every day a candy bar or or something, I forget what it was, but then I would say, you can only have one. And she loves music, and she weighs about 400 pounds. And she's the sweetest person in the world. And I asked her, did you ever go to a concert? And she said, no, and my dream is to take her to a concert. So the thing is, where she stayed, they closed the facility, and I can't find her. Now, wait, you see the next picture, I think. You'll see. No, that's not. This one is another story, but we won't get into it. It was a sad story. There she is again. See, I find this picture beautiful. I would hang that on my wall. Okay, I'm not asking you to do that, but to me, it's beautiful, and it's real. This lady I found in Miami, downtown, and she was telling me all about nuclear things. I don't know, she's totally out there. That is a sad picture, and it reminds me of my mother, who was institutionalized. And I have to take a deep breath, okay, because it's very affecting, this picture, to me. And, wow, okay. This lady never spoke, and yet we had someone Spanish there from the assisted living facility talk to her in Spanish, so she didn't mind. I took the picture, and she talked. She was so excited that someone was paying attention to her. That's another from the woman from the assisted living facility. I like the money she has in her hand. She would go out and try and hustle people at the cars so she could make a little money. The Black Country, I had a commission from Multi-Story in West Bromwich, which is a very poor area. I was able to get into the factories and walk around. That's a tough, hard man from Newcastle. I said to him, you're a hard guy, huh? He said, yeah. I said, I can tell. That's why I'm good with these people. I don't ask them many questions, and I read people who they are and what they are. And I'm respectful always, until I can't be respectful. That's Mandy, who I almost didn't photograph at all, and yes, it's one of my favorite pictures from this series. And I combined these with newspaper headlines and still lives from the area. And we're still waiting for someone to show these, okay? They love their white bread sandwiches. She was working in a store. That's what I always said I'll get my wife on our next anniversary. I think she'll throw me out of the house, but it's okay. This lady said I can take our picture in a beauty parlor that was as big as the chair. That's about it to there. And then she said to me, she changed her mind. She says, I'll kill you if you take my picture, if you use it. I said, yeah, how are you going to kill me? You're going to shoot me? No, I just want to be ready for you, you know? Another headline, they're always, most of the time, they're very violent. That's a young boy, 15. I got permission from his parents. This is about death. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to die, and I'm afraid to die. So when I saw this gentleman, his name is Peter, I think he's ill. Very thin legs, wearing shorts, and I asked him, can I take your picture? He could have talked to me for hours. And I just envisioned him going back to his little room. He's all alone, no one talks to him, and watching his little black and white television. I mean, that's a strong picture. That to me is a takeoff on a watch ad, because they don't eat very well, the poor people, so they get all swollen. And, you know, this is another lady who I asked in West Bromwich, can I take your picture? She said yes. And I said, do you want to see your picture? When my assistant, his hair goes up on end when I say that, because usually nothing very good happens when you ask someone, do you want to see one of my pictures anyway? But no. No, but it's anybody's picture, because I photographed one of the, what's his name? A well-known, Jim Jarmusch. I did a series, a portrait of him, which was, I had 20 minutes. It was a terrible picture. Nothing, boring. I mean, boring. It's straight on boring, just to get the job done. He complained because his nose was too big. So I wanted to see him to tell him, you know, Jim, you should maybe concentrate more on making a good film than worrying how you look in a photograph. But I never had the opportunity to see him again, even though he worked like 10 blocks from me. But anyway, This picture, I showed it to her, and she says, "I'm beautiful." And no, no, no. Now wait. Now this comes full cycle. I'll tell you. So now I looked at the picture after it was processed, and I saw. If you look carefully, she makes a real effort to put a lipstick on correctly. I mean, look at what she does. Okay, even if it's not on correctly. And at one time, I'm sure she was pretty. Those days are gone. But no one pays attention. And I'm not to these people. I'm not a humanitarian, and I don't claim to be. Okay, thank God. But the thing is that people like when people pay attention to them. That's not why I do it. I do it because I always felt I was an underdog, because I had a very tough upbringing emotionally. I suffered. I mean, I was hurt. And since my father was a tough guy, it was respect. You never talked to anybody about your home life. You never said anything. You just, took it in here, and you never think you're different than anybody. But I was so different, and that's what gives my pictures strength, because they come from my guts. I'm not outside, coming from the outside, looking at somebody. I live that, okay? Oh, sorry. He supposedly got beaten up, and here's where choice comes in. His eyes weren't intense enough to look at me, so I had him look away. I love her. When I showed that to my wife, she's a middle-class woman with 3 beautiful husbands, an accountant. And when I showed it to my wife, she said it would take an hour and a half to put on her each eyebrow. This was taken at the hospital. And the lady at the hospital who gave us permission to photograph there said, "That's such a beautiful portrait of Bill." And I mistakenly, we had in the contract, which I didn't realize, I sold the picture, or they used the picture, I didn't even sell it, in some editorial thing, so I can't use the picture anymore. And she loved it when she saw it when we had a lecture in Milwaukee at the museum. I didn't realize that Milwaukee is one of the most racist cities in America, because one side of the river is all white and the other side is all black. And this girl, it was sad for me, because you have this pretty girl who was in a terrible area of Milwaukee that's a crack addict, obviously. She's always scratching her face. And I said, you're really ruining your life. And I've been there because I almost died on drugs myself, so I know all about it, okay? That's why I can identify with all of these people that I photograph. And that's why also that they accept me, because, I've been there, done that. But the thing is that I wonder where she's going to go. And I saw the guy that he has a sign in his window, penciled, room for young people. You can stay here. And then he gets them in and he turns them onto drugs. It's someone I felt like I would have, if I was younger, I might not have let him walk away. Okay, I mean but that's what happens in the world, You want to hear that story? That's a good one. We had just arrived in Las Vegas, so we went to the supermarket because we wanted to have some food to eat in the morning. And I go in and we see this person with the wig, all askew and everything. It's a mess, okay? So we don't think of anything. I get back in the car and I say, we got to ask that person if I can photograph her. We get out. He goes one way in the supermarket. I go the other way. We meet. Where is she? We don't see her. She's right over there. So I made an appointment 2 days later to photograph her. So I said, I'll take you to lunch. Okay. So now, when we get her, I'm taking the picture, and I asked her the first night, what do you do for a living? She said, I'm an escort. It's pretty funny, okay? But it's a very strong portrait. So the wind-up was, since I wanted to go out and photograph and not have lunch with her, I gave her $25. I said, here, treat yourself. And this is just to show you what some of the big prints look like. That was at the Barbican in London. These are the 6-foot by 9-foot ones. You see how big they are? And they're beautifully done. I think that's it. So now if you have questions.
All right, we'll start. I see some questions already.